friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to see you again. Today I have a very special author interview that I want to share with you, but I want to explain it a little bit so you understand what you're watching and why we did this interview and sort of give you some context. So some of you may know, some of you may not know, that a few months ago I launched with Bindery. I launched EasyCat Press with Bindery. So if you're not aware, Bindery is very similar to Patreon. It's a subscriber community. So basically you can sign up, there are different tier levels, and you get different rewards for those levels, and it is a way for creators like myself, to have communities where people are able to basically subscribe and help us keep making content like this, like what you're watching now. The cool thing about Bindery is it's very similar to Patreon, but it is also very specific to the bookish community. So what's cool about EasyCat Press is not only is it a place where people can subscribe and get exclusive content from me, but we also are able to use some of those funds from those subscriptions to publish a book together. So the book that my publishing imprint, EasyCat Press, is publishing is a book called House of Frank, which is written by Kay Sinclair. Now, we found Kay through a process where we let indie authors submit to EasyCat Press so that I was able to go through manuscripts and query letters to find the perfect book. And we also took agented submissions as well. So we took agented and unagented submissions through the course of picking our first book to publish. And the book that I eventually found and just head over heels loved was House of Frank. So this interview is with Kay Sinclair, and so we're going to be talking about the process with Bindery, the process of her writing the book and getting the book ready to submit to EasyCat Press, where I eventually chose her book to be published. We're going to be talking about her writing process. We're going to be talking about her inspirations, and this interview was originally published on EasyCat Press. So for a while now, this interview has been exclusive, so it's something that only people who were subscribed could see. That being said, I feel like it needs to be shared. I think it's so exciting that we are publishing this book together. I'm so excited for you all to get to know House of Frank and get to visit this world. We'll talk more about it in the interview, but it is essentially a cozy paranormal book about grief and recovery and found family. When I joined Bindery and when we started talking about what kind of book I wanted to publish and I wanted to work with an author on, when I tell you that House of Frank checks every single box of what I was hoping I would find, and then some. The first time I read it, I cried. The second time I read it, I cried. I've now read it 3 times, and I've cried every single time. I just love it so much. So this interview is with Kay Sinclair, so you can get to know the book a little bit better and see if maybe you want to be part of that subscriber community. Now, people outside of EasyCat Press will get an opportunity to read this book, but people who are subscribers will get to read the book early, which is really cool. They also are getting behind-the-scenes look at the publishing process. We're currently in the midst of cover design and cover art, and they've gotten to see some early concept designs as we work on the cover. They will, of course, be the first to see the cover. Any bit of news about this book, I present to my subscriber community on Bindery first. They get to know about it first, and also they get to give feedback, which is really cool. When I shared the different versions of the cover, I specifically got to ask for feedback from the community, and they got to tell me their thoughts, and that was really cool feedback to then be able to go back to the people at the head of Bindery as well as the artist with. It's just such a cool collaborative process. All of the pieces and elements of this are just really exciting. So I'm excited to share this with you. Okay, I know. I've been talking way too long. You want to see the interview. The one last thing that I will say before we jump into this. Kay and I recorded this interview on Zoom. It was my first time recording anything on Zoom. The quality of the video is not the best, okay? It's just bear with us. It's not the best. Don't even bear with Kay. Bear with me. First time I'd ever done anything like this through Zoom and interviewed an author through Zoom. The video quality is not in any way amazing, but it is still a very watchable interview. You'll be able to hear her talk about her process and hear us talk about how House of Frank got chosen. It's really lovely, and I hope you enjoy it. So check out this interview with myself and Kay Sinclair, the author of House of Frank, and I'll check back in with you at the end. All right, hello, Kay. I'm so excited to finally get to chat with you and introduce you to all of the lovely members of EasyCat Press that are so excited about House of Frank and helping and being part of this process of bringing this all to life. So this is, for anyone watching, this is Kay Sinclair, the author of House of Frank. This is the first time we've chatted a little before, but this is the first time we're really just chatting. Yeah, so that's kind of nice. So how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be talking with you,
Yeah.
and answering any questions. So this is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have so a few people sent in some questions, so I'll mostly probably stick to those. But the questions that I want to ask before those really are just about you. So can you give us if you like in the back of House of Frank when it gives us the rundown on Kay Sinclair, what are the bullet points? What are the things it's going to say so that we can get to know a little bit more about you?
Okay. Well, I'm a big family person, so um, I love hanging out with my family. I'm an aunt, so that's probably like my main duties, really. Um, I love to write, obviously, but I love talking about storytelling and I love animation. Um, and I love to draw and I love art. And yeah, I think those are kind of like my bullet points,
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you're just a very creative person all around.
I guess so. I guess, yeah, I guess you would say that.
Where I know you told me, I think you already told me, but because I have the memory of a squirrel, you said you're East Coast. Where are you based out of?
Philly.
Out of
Yeah.
Philly. Okay, cool. Awesome. How do you like it? Do you like Philly? Have you always lived in Philly? Has that always been home?
I have not always lived in Philly. I was actually born and raised about 2 hours away from here. And I came here for school. And actually, I went to school for fashion merchandising, and I just never went into the field. But I do know how to sew, and I made clothes, and I was doing that for a while. And also I was a nurse assistant for some time too. So I was a caregiver. And I kind of was doing a lot of different little things until I started to like really focus on writing and making that like my main thing.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I totally get how you probably felt about fashion merchandising because I went to school for film to be like a film writer and director. And when I got done with school, I was like, well, I know for sure that's not what I want to do. And I was like, I'm
I
going to do something else. It's like I'm
feel like
glad we
it
explored
kind of
that.
fits because you like film, it seems like, and you like shows and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like adjacent a little bit.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely like in the at least I feel like I'm using my degree a little bit, like a little
Yeah,
baby amount.
a little bit. I
Well,
get you.
let's like every once in a while I'll adjust my lighting and I'm like, ooh, college. That
That's
was
like
worth, yeah.
$10,000 right
Yeah, it was worth the money to know where that light goes.
there. Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we have some questions. So I'm going to ask you some of the questions that were asked on Bindery, and then if we get to the end of that and I'm like, oh, I still have some things I think we should ask, then we'll go from there. But I think we had a couple really great questions. So first of all, Artsy Beck asked several questions, so I'm going to kind of go through them. Um, you kind of just touched on this. It's actually like a perfect segue. But what actually made you decide to pursue being an author?
Well, I've been writing for most of my life, so it was kind of like an off and on thing. But the main theme, you know this already, for House of Frank is grief. So when my mother passed away in 2020, it kind of forced me and my siblings to reconvene and come together again. And through that, we kind of realized that life is short and we just want to go after our dreams, And we were able to kind of build a community with each other. And um, I was just like, why not? I wanted to focus on, I was actually writing another story and then I put that on the back burner for now. And then this idea for House of Frank came to me earlier this year. And so I just wanted to focus on that and kind of it was like kind of cathartic in a way,
Oh yeah, I'm
to work through
sure.
my own grief. So it was just something that I needed to get out now.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so interesting because when I first announced that House of Frank was going to be the book that we were publishing, I very specifically remember I had this comment that was like, "Nothing about grief is cozy," and I was like, and it's so great what you just said because you perfectly summed up how it is, right? Because through grief, yeah, like actual grief is not really a cozy topic, but the way that grief
Yes.
brings people together, brings family together, really makes you realize like kind of like almost like clears the air, clears your head of like what is really important in this world. All of that I think is incredibly relevant to like cozy books and cozy fantasy and things like that. So I love that you said that because that comment haunts me because I'm like, this book is so cozy. What are you talking about? Oh goodness.
You just gotta read it to understand. It's all right.
Well, exactly, exactly. I'm like, just wait. When you read it, you'll be like, oh, this is super cozy. I get it. Are there authors that inspire you and your writing? I'm sure there are.
Yes. So when I was younger, I love Lemony Snicket. I love the way that he wrote is like very sarcastic and like very like on the nose, you know. And also I read this. I'm trying to look at it. I'm looking at my bookcase. Stuart Turton, the author of Seven and a Half Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I read that this year and I love the way that it's written. It's like it's so atmospheric. And I was just like, man, I wish I knew half of the words that he knew, you know, and like I could just write like that. So yeah, those two like definitely inspire me.
Very cool. It's interesting. Do you feel like you read a lot of cozy literature? Like when you sat down to write this, were you intending to write it in the realm of like cozy fantasy or cozy paranormal fantasy, or did it just kind of work out that way?
It just kind of worked out that way. And it's funny because I started reading cozy fantasy after I wrote it. So like after that, that's when I read Howl's Moving Castle and then like Stardust and then like Legends of Lattes. Like I read it after. And so I just thought it was like kind of funny how like everything just like and I wasn't trying to do it on purpose. It was just like what I
Yeah.
gravitated, you know. So I
I
thought
think
that was kind of funny.
that's so funny because I feel like House of Frank captures all my favorite things about cozy, cozy fantasy, cozy paranormal. When I think about like Legends and Lattes or oh my god, I can't talk. Can't spell treason without T
Yeah.
or any of those books, I feel like House of Frank captures all of that so well. And I love that you wrote it before encountering any of that.
I
It's
know, I think
amazing.
it's so funny. Actually, this week I just finished The Society of Irregular Witches. I love that book so much. And so like when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, she's going to this house and it's like full of these characters and stuff. I'm like, I'm seeing some similarities here. And I just think that's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first started reading House of Frank for the first time, I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is very similar to Secret Society for Regular Witches and some other things." And then I was like, think early on the first like 20 like 50 pages, I was like, "Oh, is this going to be like really similar?" And then as things branched off and we started to explore like the story, I was like, "No, this is its own thing and it's so special." Like it really does, I think we talked about this a little bit already, but I think really the way that you approach grief and how that affects different people and how it really affects their stories as human beings or other creatures that they might be, I think really is what sets this book apart. And I just love that. I love it. If I haven't already told you a million times, I love House of Frank. It's so good. So anyway, moving on to the next question. Can you briefly describe, this is always a scary question I feel like for authors, but can you briefly describe your writing process?
Oh, sure. It's not a scary question at all. So because I love craft, writing
Oh,
craft and
cool.
stuff like that. So I do read up on you know, books and stuff like that to help me with storytelling. But I am originally a plotter. I have to have like everything out. I don't know if you've seen any of my videos, but I have like on my wall post-its because like I have to have like all my scenes in a row, like I have to visually see it. Which is funny because House of Frank, I pants the whole entire thing up until like the last couple chapters. Isn't that
That's kind
funny?
of wild.
So like I did like something completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's especially wild because I feel like everything comes together so beautifully in House of Frank. So that's especially surprising to me that like that's the book that you, because when you were saying, "Oh, I plotted everything, I make sure everything makes sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense because everything like ties together really beautifully at the end. It all comes together. It's like everything converges." But then you're like, "But no, that I went the opposite direction."
Yes, I did. Because I like to see, out different things and just see what works, you know, like, because you never know. And it actually worked really well for me. So I'm
Yeah.
happy.
I think cozy literature is a good place to try that because the stakes are low. You really can kind of just let the characters explore themselves and see, where they want to go, what they want to do, all of that. So I think it works out and it works out really well. So. Um, and of
Yeah.
course, you kind of mentioned this, so we may have already answered this, but I'll ask it again because it is in these questions. But the question is, what inspired you to write House of Frank? And it really sounds like it was, your family coming together in that moment of grief, right? Was there anything else that was part of that, or was that really like the moment?
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this before, but like in June is always like a tough time for me. Because that's when my mom first had her brain aneurysm. So I don't know if it's like my body or my subconscious that just like it just kind of kicks things
Okay.
into motion, and I just have a tough time with grief during that month. So for that month, there was a lot of things going on, and I'm just like, man, I just want to get away and go to like a special place and like take, time out and like drink tea and be like in stormy weather. And where I live in Philly, I live in like the historical district. So there's like a lot of beautiful architecture. I love architecture. Um, and there's this one particular house that is open for leasing, and my sister and I and my niece and my nephew, we take walks regularly. And we just like, seeing the sights and seeing like different neighborhoods and stuff like that. And this is one house in particular on the corner. And I'm just like, oh, this will be great for like a place where like all these magical creatures could come. Like a boarding house of like of sorts, and I didn't know what to do with that idea, but it just kind of just came all together, like, my grief and then that feeling. And I was just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna write this.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that. That's such a good story. I'm sure people will ask. So if you ever get a chance to like snap a picture of that building,
Yeah.
we might need a picture. We might need a visual of what started
Of
all of
course,
this.
of course,
Because,
of course.
but like discreet. If there are people living there, just,
No, 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 no.
don't be weird about it.
No, of course not, of course not.
Okay, and then we have some more questions from Primrose. So Primrose asked, well, we kind of talked about it. We said, what are some authors that inspire you? But what are some of your favorite books to read? Like, do you have a favorite book? Do you have any favorite books that you like to reread? Anything like that?
Well, I don't necessarily have a favorite book. I have like moods that I go through. It's kind of like picking a song or like a movie or something, you know what I mean? So like I do have moods of like, cozy fantasy. So I've kind of been in that kick recently. But before that, I was like really into reading like these kind of slice of life books. So someone who has always had an impact on me is Mitch Albom, who wrote The Five People You Meet in Heaven and like
Yeah.
Tuesdays with Morning. Like those kinds of books, I really, they really resonate with me. Um, so I don't necessarily have like a favorite book. It's just like whatever I'm in the mood to be reading at that moment.
Yeah, you're a mood reader for sure.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Everybody tells me that I am, and I'm like, no, no, I plan. I make such a plan. They're like, no, you make a plan, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna read this instead. Don't worry about it.
I,
Because, sometimes you just, you need to read what you're in the mood to read. What is your favorite part about being a writer?
I love the freedom, and it's so fun. It's like, I know I like to plot things out, but that beginning stages of like, you don't know where the story is going, and like you're just kind of letting your imagination go wild, and you can write these characters and um, write these like relationships like with each other. And I don't know, it's very freeing, and it's just fun.
Oh, I love that. Um, what's the most surprising thing that you learned while writing House of Frank?
This might seem like kind of cliche, but it's, I can do hard things. It's like I challenged myself to finish the my first draft in 30 days, and I was able to do it in 28. And I didn't really hold too much stock in it because, like, if I missed a day, like, I didn't really beat myself up about it. But I had a goal that I was like really trying to reach and trying to do, and I was able to do it. And even with the open submission for Bindery, and guys are sneaky. You only had it open for 2 days, so I was working to get those line edits done on my own. Okay, so So yeah, so like I was able to clean up the manuscript because I wanted to present it to you the best way,
Yeah.
possible. So I stayed up like probably like 26 hours
Oh my.
to finish the manuscript. Yes, I know. It was crazy. My sister was like sliding me tea and food through my door, like, here you go, close the door, get back to work.
Oh no.
I mean, like it was hard, but it was like I enjoyed it, and I know like this is what I want to be doing, and I'm so grateful. And I know I've said this to you before, but I'm so thankful that you chose House of Frank and that you were able to take a chance on me. So thank you, Jason.
Oh, I will tell you, I from the moment I read the query letter, my brain was like, this is it. But like I
Uh,
told you before, like I had to go through, had to go through the process, make sure I checked everything, make sure I looked through all of the submissions. And it's funny you talk about that 2 day thing because when we first launched Bindery, we were like, we want to take indie submissions. But the problem is if you just open indie submissions, like even in those 2 days, the amount of submissions we got was bonkers bananas. Like I can't imagine if we just opened it, I would never ever be able to get through all of them.
yeah.
The amount we got in those 2 days was like so overwhelming. But it was like at least manageable. Like if we had gone even one more day, I would have been like, nope, I'm out. I can't do this. Um,
Right.
and it's funny because if I remember right, the submissions happened either before or after or like during the time when I went to New York Comic Con in New York. So I'm literally like in between things, like reading submissions, and on the plane I'm reading like I'm trying just to find the time to go through everything. Um, but yeah, no, it was like it's I have a couple friends who are also tastemakers for Bindery, and I hadn't even like opened the document yet. I had only read the query letter for House of Frank, and I sent it to the two of them, and I was like, guys, I think this is the one. I think this is the one. And they're like, okay, well, you need to read it first. And I was like,
Right.
I know, I'll read it, I promise, but I think this is it. And it turned out, I mean, it's funny because I think coming into this as someone who's newer to that whole process, I think you don't think that when they're like, oh, read the query letter, see if that speaks to you, and then if it does, dive further in. And I'm always like, but how much can you really learn from a query letter? Are you really going to be able to get a? And from a good query letter, it turns out you can get a pretty good sense of
Mhm.
what you're getting into. And I also read a lot of bad query letters, and those gave me a really good sense of what I wasn't getting into. And I shouldn't even say bad. I feel like there just were so many things I would read and I'd be like, no, this is not what I'm looking for. Like because when I first started Easy Cat Press, the first thing I said is like, I want to do cozy fantasy, like cozy fantasy or cozy paranormal, or it has to be cozy. Like that's what I want to do. And I would get stuff submitted to me that they were like, this is cozy. And I'd be like, what? There's nothing cozy about this. I'm stressed just reading the plot summary. Um,
Not stress.
what? So no, it was perfection. And it's crazy to me that you wrote this in June and submitted it in, when did we do submissions? It was October, right? And now we're here. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. It was
Yeah.
meant to be. Um, Speaking of which, how do you find the time to write? It sounds like you sort of just set a goal for yourself and made it happen, right?
Yeah, I try to stick to goals for myself and a lot of times for writing. So right now I'm still a caregiver, and so my schedule is like it's all over the place. But I try to dedicate time for writing and reading too. So like in the morning times, if I'll have like an hour to just dedicate to just writing and like time myself. So like 15 minutes, write, 5 minute break, that whole thing, and then get back at it.
Yeah. I mean, scheduling is super important, and I feel like I get asked that question a lot too. Like, how do you have time to film all this stuff? I was like, make a schedule for myself, and I set
Yeah.
time limits, and I stick to it because that's how you get stuff done. And it's hard to create. I think it's hard to start that behavior of like timing yourself and doing it, but once you do it, it's like so worth it.
It becomes like second nature.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I feel like it's nice because you're doing that in the morning before you go to work, so it's nice to know that you've like accomplished something before you even like start your day,
Right.
right?
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm useless. Like I just want to relax. I want to, just do whatever I want, like I want to read, I want to eat. Like I just want to relax.
You're just ready to relax. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And then what is you actually just answered the last question that I had, which was what is the best time of day for you to write, which sounds like it's morning time.
Morning time, yeah.
That
Morning
seems
time.
very healthy. I feel like a lot of authors are like stay up all night writing.
Listen, I used to be like that, but like, baby, I'm getting old. I can't do that no more. I need my sleep. 9 o'clock. That's my end time.
I made a video today opening advent calendars, and I literally said that because I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading last night, and I was like, when you are over 30 and you stay up that late, you will spend the next week recovering from that
Yes.
choice.
Yes. Yes.
What happened?
I don't know. I miss being young.
I do too. I think about when I was younger, I used to stay up till like 3 in the morning, and then I would still get up in the morning at what, like 7 a.m. to go to school?
I don't know how
What?
I don't know how I did it because I used to be the same way, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then having to go to school. And then I'm like reading through class, you know, I I I, I wasn't like the best student. I mean, I passed, but like I never paid attention because I was like always doing my own thing. I just didn't care. But I graduated, I
Yeah,
passed, I have A's
that
and B's, so that's all that
exactly.
matters.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so that's the questions that we had from Bindery. I think the last thing I want to ask is if you wouldn't mind, are the people on the subscribers on Bindery have heard me explain probably terribly House of Frank a couple times now, but I would love if you could just give a quick like what is your like elevator pitch or your um synopsis of what House of Frank is about. How would you describe it to people that you're talking to about the book?
Oof, that's a hard question because I don't know what it's about. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. No, House of Frank is a very special story to me. It's about a young witch named Masika, and 2 years after her sister's death, she arrives to this place called Ash Gardens, and her sister kind of gave her this dying request to bury her ashes at Ash Gardens. And when she gets there, it's a little difficult for her to let go. So she finds out that at Ash Gardens she meets a mythical beast named Frank, and he's very kind and he loves cardigans and tea, and he's looking for another witch to help with like their ceremonies for the bereaved. And so Psycha thinks this is a great opportunity to delay the inevitable and to work for Frank and for Ash Gardens, um, until she has the courage to finally lay her sister to rest. And while she's there, she meets like a whole bunch of characters in the house who are all in different stages of grief of their own. Um, and there is bickering cherubs. There is an architect witch. There's a half witch, a ghost, a fairy, and a mean elf. All in this house together, and she learns to love again.
Oh, yeah, that was much better than how I've explained it.
I think that was like so terrible. Oh my god!
No, no,
But
no, that was great. The problem is early on, I wasn't sure how much we were allowed to say. And I would
uh,
ask like the people that are like heads of Bindery, it was like, how much am I allowed to say? And they would tell me. And then by the time I like filmed the video, it's like, I don't remember how much I'm allowed to say. So
okay.
I would be very vague. And I was like, and there's a house, and there's a witch, and there's sadness, and you guys are gonna love it.
Right, right, right.
So you did a beautiful job. I think that will give people a much better idea of what they're getting into than
Thank you.
whatever
Okay.
nonsense I have said.
I
Um,
was like, I have to think about it. I'm like, Dad, what is it about? Okay.
what is this? Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Kay. We will obviously do this again. We have so many exciting things happening. The cover art is starting to be worked on, so we'll have some sketches soon to look at. The book is planned to publish late 2024, so we have a lot of time until then to talk about the editing process, the cover art process, the not losing our minds while we wait for the release date process, all of those things to come. But it's going to be so much fun.
Sounds good.
Yay! All right, thank you so much. I am going to end this recording, which is a thing that I know how to do. Oh my god. Oh, there it is. Stop recording. All right, thank you guys so much. Hello, and welcome back to the future, today, from the past, which you were just watching. Sure. I hope you enjoyed that. I can't say enough, and I can't stress enough how happy and excited I am to be working with Kay on this book. This book is just a dream come true as something that I wanted to publish and help bring into the world. I have loved every minute of this. Working with Bindery, working with Kay, getting to see the book come to life. We recently went through the first round of edits. Like I said earlier, I've shared with Bindery, with my Bindery community, the cover design that we're working on right now, and like some different versions of that, which is really cool. So if you're interested at all, you can check out Bindery. I'll of course put the link down below, and you can check out Easy Cat Press. There are 3 different tier levels. If you're interested in subscribing, you can also just follow for free. You won't get to see all the exclusive content, but you will get updates, because at some point maybe you're like, well, I want to know. I want to know what's going on. So you'll still get some updates and be able to see some of the content that's posted there. If you're at all interested in seeing more about House of Frank. House of Frank is scheduled to come out later this year, later in 2024. So the book will be in people's hands very soon, which is which is wild. And I have some new benefits coming to my Bindery page as well. So I am going to be forming in February. I'm going to start having thank you panels in all of my YouTube videos to thank my Bindery subscribers. So that is really cool. They're going to start getting early access to some of my YouTube content. They're going to start getting longer unedited versions of some of my YouTube content. And I have a whole bunch of other stuff. They get vlogs. They get all kinds of fun things. So I'm really excited about that. And obviously this video is to get you a little bit excited about checking out Easy Cat Press. But more than anything, I just want you excited about checking out House of Frank, whether that's through Easy Cat Press or when it has its full release later this year. It is such a special book. It is, I can easily say, it's one of my favorite, it's one of my top 3 books that I read last year. Just the first draft that I read, well, I don't think it's a first draft, but the draft that I read that was used to query us was one of my top 3 favorite books that I read last year, and I adore it, and I cannot wait for other people to read it, because it is so beautiful and so special and so cozy. I'm just so excited for you all to check it out. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'd love to see you back here for my bookish content, board game content, and scrapbooking content. I don't know. We do a little bit of everything here, right? Have a wonderful day, and as always, happy reading.